Welcome in, New England Patriots Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to look at potential cut candidates for your New England Patriots with some surprises involved as well. I got 6 names we'll get to coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, folks, we told you about this earlier in the week that we are in the midst of a sub-battle with our Commanders channel, trying to see who can get to 3,000 subscribers first. I have very good news to report. We have made significant ground on that Commanders channel as we are about just over 100 subs back from them. And so my goal is not only to get to 3,000 subs, but to beat the Commanders report to get there. So subscribe to the channel for the latest happenings on your New England Patriots. We're doing daily news and rumors segments. We're talking about OTAs, minicamp. We also were breaking down when training camp gets here, and the more we grow this channel, the more content we can bring you and start to do maybe some live shows or watch parties potentially during the season as well. Subscribe for free today, youtube.com/Patriots Today. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. We'll get started with today's show. So here's how this works. I got 6 names that I'm going to bring you, and our friends at Patriots Wire did a really good job of giving some context to each of these situations. So we'll show you what Patriots Wire had to say as well. But all in all, we're looking at if New England were to move on from these 6 players, they could save up to $25 million, money that could be spent elsewhere. Now, we're not saying all these cuts are going to happen, but here are some possibilities of some players that New England could potentially move on from. Let's start with might be a bit of a surprise to some people, DeVante Parker at the wide receiver position. If New England were to move on from Parker, you're looking at about $6.2 million potentially saved. Now, think about this when it comes to Parker and the Patriots' offensive situation here. We've heard from Bill O'Brien say that he wants a clean slate with this offense, right? That they kind of want to hit the reset button. And there's been the rumblings about trading Kendrick Bourne potentially. Maybe DeVante Parker comes into that fold as well, where they cut bait and try to save that $6 million. I like Parker. I hope that he sticks around, but when you see that type of number out there, then you can kind of understand why they might potentially make a move. Here's more from Patriots Wire on DeVante Parker. I think Parker has some value around the league, and I would expect him to be traded if the team decides to move on. However, he's on the list for the fact that the Patriots may just value the cap space now over a 6th-round pick next year. So that could be what it comes down to. Would you rather have the cap space or would you rather have a 6th-round pick potentially if you were to make a move? So that is the first name we have on the list. Next up, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. That's where we find defensive lineman Lawrence Guy. And if you move on from Lawrence Guy, you're looking at about $3.07 million saved if New England were to cut ties with Lawrence Guy on that front. Here's more what Patriots Wire had to say. The Patriots have addressed a clear need of getting younger across the defensive line, and they need to open opportunities for reps with younger players like Sam Roberts and rookie 2nd-round draft pick Keon White. And I got to tell you, I'm very high on Keon White. You brought him in out of Georgia Tech. A lot of high expectations for what he could bring to the table there. I think there's reason to be optimistic for that group and that's the future of that group. And maybe Lawrence Guy, of course, might not necessarily be a part of said future. Might be time to go ahead and cut ties and save that money while you can. So got a few more names to get to in a moment. Before we do, name a player the Patriots should cut. Who comes to mind that you think New England should move on from that shouldn't be on that 53-man roster when the season begins in September? What do you think? Give me one name in the comments section. This is our pinned comment today. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. And give me one name who you think the Patriots should ultimately move on from or not. All right, let's shift gears now. This one is kind of a more obvious name, I'll admit. That is Nick Folk at the kicker position at $2.2 million. And you've already found Nick Folk's replacement in Chad Ryland, who they selected on day 3. And Belichick and company seem to be very optimistic about Chad Ryland. The rankings going into the draft had Chad Ryland as the number 1 kicker in this class. And so with that, obviously, you're not going to keep two kickers on the roster, and you're going to cut ties and save the money on Nick Folk and go younger. It just makes too much sense for that, right? Here's more from Patriots Wire on Nick Folk. Nick Folk has seemingly lost some magic here as of late after reviving his career in the back nine with the early draft selection of rookie Chad Ryland. It is extremely likely that Folk is cut in camp. The only scenario where potentially Nick Folk could stay is if there's an injury to Chad Ryland or if he somehow just looked really awful and really bad. Even then, it's hard to imagine that there's a place for Nick Folk on this roster as far as that goes. Three more names to get to. Let's go to the corner position. That's where we find Myles Bryant. And if the Patriots were to move on from Myles Bryant, you're looking at $2.67 million that they would save. And the secondary for the Patriots is very good. Kind of crowded, actually. And you'll have to make some adjustments of some sorts. There's not necessarily space for everybody, and that's where we find Myles Bryant potentially being a cap casualty. Here's more on Myles Bryant. With his tender, not a guaranteed contract, and the Patriots selecting three corners in the 2023 NFL Draft, it is likely Bryant is one of the first to go, as the Patriots could value the extra space for roster maneuvering throughout the year. So, although $2.67 million isn't a whole lot of money you're necessarily saving, it is the valued roster spot that is the big deal here that would be the difference in why we could see a potential move where Myles Bryant is ultimately gone. Should the Patriots cut Myles Bryant? What say you? What do you think? Let us know in the comment section. Y for yes, in for no. Is it time to move on from Myles Bryant? Let us know what you think. Y for yes, in for no in the comment section below. Next on the list, we will go to the offensive tackle position. That is where we find Yodny Cajuste. And if you move on from Yodny Cajuste, you're looking at about $2.74 million you could potentially save. A little bit more than what you could save from Myles Bryant. And I want to show you exactly the case to be made of why you might potentially move on from Yodny Cajuste. Patriots Wire put it this way as far as the situation goes. Besides the numbers, the Patriots have multiple offensive tackles competing for one of the likely four spots on the roster, and Cajuste would be the odd man out here. Calvin Anderson, Riley Reif, Trent Brown, Connor McDermott in the 2023 fourth-rounder City Sow will all likely compete for the tackle slots. So in the case here of Yodny, not a whole lot of money you're potentially saving, $2.74 million, but a coveted roster spot with a lot of young and different talent competing for that spot. Ultimately, you find Rodney Cajuste kind of just as the odd man out as far as that goes. He's not the only tackle on our list, though, as far as cut candidates go. That's where we find Trent Brown on this list. Hear me out on this. Trent Brown, if you move on from him, there's a lot of money that could be saved. $8 million potentially for New England. And a lot of it kind of depends on the development of some of your other guys that we talked about at that tackle position. But nonetheless, here's more on why New England could move on from Trent Brown. Brown is a free agent after this year, and if the Patriots feel that rookie City Sow, who could get tested at left tackle in camp, is as good or better, they may look to move on from Brown. We all hope to see the Brown of old, but there is a chance he is a cap casualty if the competition gets hot. So what's that going to look like? Do we see, if City Sow steps up, I mean, there's a chance to save a lot of money. Now, if Trent Brown can look like what he did not too long ago, then yeah, then you would love to have him on your team. But you have to factor in, you have to decide for yourself. Can he be that same player? And is he worth $8 million? That's a tough question the Patriots have to figure out and have to figure out here pretty soon. So, before we go, name a sleeper player for the Patriots this season. Somebody that might just barely make the roster. Maybe they were drafted late. Who will it be? Give me a sleeper player to watch for New England in 2023. Hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. You can follow me there talking about your New England Patriots, and I'll see you next time here on Patriots Today.